My name is Gustavo Perez. I'm the Vice President of Philanthropy and Community Impact at Wells Fargo. We're proud sponsors of this session and the Global Entrepreneurship Session Network. Today, it's my privilege to open up our Masterclass session, Building Winning Teams. The most successful entrepreneurs and startups are the ones who realize that building a winning team. Okay, my notes are frozen. Of course. There we go. Building a winning team is critical to scale their company, but attracting, retaining, and motivating talent is not easy. In this masterclass, we'll share ways to attract the best talent to your team, along with the methods for rewarding hires and keeping them engaged. Okay, y'all, bear with me. The internet here is not working.
Underneath your laptop, I took out a pen and a paper and I wrote my notes in.
Yeah, I see them.
Just in case that happens.
Bear with me, y'all. Okay. The most successful entrepreneurs and startups are the ones who realize that building a winning team is critical to scale their company, but attracting, retaining, and motivating talent is not easy. In this masterclass, we'll share ways to attract the best talent to your team, along with the methods for rewarding hires and keeping them engaged through company culture. I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Jeff Hoffman. Jeff is the chairman of the board of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, which works with entrepreneurs in over 180 countries nationwide, globally. Jeff is a successful entrepreneur, author, and producer. Over his career, he has founded multiple startups and been part of many you would recognize: Priceline.com, Booking.com, and Ubit.com, to name a few. Jeff serves on the board of companies across the globe and champions entrepreneurship and small business. As an expert on economic growth initiatives and entrepreneurship program, Jeff has supported the White House, the State Department, and the United Nations. Jeff speaks on innovation, entrepreneurship, and business leadership. He's the author of book Scale, a how-to guide on growing your business. He has been featured on CNN, Fox, Bloomberg, CNBC, ABC, NPR, Forbes, and many more. Let's welcome Jeff to the stage.
And again, we appreciate your sponsorship very much. They're not only helping sponsor this event, but what we do at the Global Entrepreneurship Network. So this is one of my favorite topics. First of all, show of hands, how many people are running a business, have employees? That people that work for you. So this part, and the reason that this is so important is that when we talk to startups and you ask startups, what do you need to succeed? What's the most important reason? Most important resource or most important thing you need to succeed? Frequently people say funding. And the truth is, it's not a funding game, it's a talent game. The scarcest resource in the world, hi, I didn't know you guys were coming. Thank you for being here. The scarcest resource in the world is not financial capital, it's human capital. Okay, and that's why I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. It's interesting because when companies fail, and we say, what happened? And they say, we ran out of money. And actually, you didn't run out of money. You ran out of money because you ran out of innovation and good ideas, right? And smart people creating great products. If your company was achieving those things, you would be making money. So finance becomes a crutch when talent is the real key. Let me tell you this. If we give funding to a group of average people, and you give them a bunch of money, you know what happens? December comes and they call you and say, we need more money. You say, what happened to the money? You say, well, we spent it all. What'd you get done? Well, we got a little bit done, but we need more money. If you give a tiny bit of money to innovators, you come back and you're like, wait, how did you build this? I only gave you this much money. Innovators, and I'm going to tell you, rock stars are the key to success. So don't let funding be an excuse for winning. When we were building our companies, most of you know it, the main one is Booking.com, but in the US it's Priceline.com. I remember walking down the halls one day, looking around and thinking, if we changed industries right now, we'd probably still win because all the best people are in this building. That is the key to success. So I get leaders, whether you own a company or just manage a team at your business, say to me, but especially business owners, frequently say, I'm working harder than I've ever worked before. I'm working longer than I've ever worked before, but I'm not getting ahead. My business has stopped growing and it's kind of stagnated. And here's what they don't realize, that you're never going to grow by working longer and harder yourself. The key to growth is when you get out of the way. You can't grow until you can let go. And what that means is having people that you trust and empower around you to run the business. There's this old saying a lot of you have heard that people say, if you want something done right, do it yourself. That's actually the worst advice ever, right? I made a joke one time and I told people, I'm going to start doing my own dental work because if you want something right, do it yourself. And he's like, shouldn't you go to a dentist? And I was like, wait, that's counter to that logic. Why do you think that applies in your business? It doesn't, right? It's the same thing, that the key to success is this. It's surrounding yourself with people smarter than you. So I used to think that my job, and I'm telling you that for me, my success didn't happen in our companies until I stopped just running the business. I remember a day, when you think about it as a leader, I remember a day because my daughter came up to me and she said, are you the boss? And I said, yes. And she said, what, Ivan? Hello, my friend. She said, what do you do all day? And as the boss. And I said, what do you think I do all day? And my daughter said, you just walk around and tell other people what to do. Well, that's kind of what we think leadership is, right? But the truth is that real leaders don't create followers. Real leaders create other leaders. That's a different job description. One day I woke up and I said, wait, my job is not to tell people what to do. My job is to find people smarter than me and help them grow past me. So I rewrote my own job description. And I said, what I need to do is surround myself with people smarter than me. The key to that, by the way, is you have to recognize that you're not as smart as you think you are. Here's this crazy thing that for entrepreneurs, you know what's one of the worst things that happens to you? Success. You know why? Because when you have a small business, you wear all the hats. You're doing finance, you're doing sales, you're designing the product, you're doing marketing, right? You're paying the bills, whatever, and it's going well. So you look at yourself and you say, I'm pretty good at this stuff. You're wrong. You're good at one thing, right? I have never hired an engineer who did the engineering, and then he did all my taxes, and then he wrote my marketing copy. It doesn't happen. Engineers do engineering. Dentists do dental work, right? Accountants do taxes. So why do you, just because you think you run the business, think you're good at everything? The key is to find the one thing. Each of us is really only good at one thing. Find yours, and then find people smarter than you for every other piece of the business and get out of their way. That's what we're going to talk about today. By the way, I'm a software engineer, and it wasn't until I hired way smarter software engineers that I found out I was not a good one. My team said to me, Jeff, I said, what? And they said, stop helping us. And I was like, dude, we have to write code. And they're like, yeah, anybody but you. I said, okay, it's my company. And they're like, right, we're all really good at this, and you're not, do something else. That was a hard day for me. And I said, what do you guys want me to do? And they said, none of us know what marketing is, figure that out. The whole rest of my life, I've really been the marketing person. I run my marketing meetings at my company. I don't run any other meeting, right? So when people are telling you, you're the owner, you're the CEO, you're the boss, you should know everything in your company. You're not any of those things. If that's true, you're the bottleneck. You're the inefficiency. You grow when you find people smarter than you and you trust and empower them. I have people that come in my office and ask me a question, and I say, I have absolutely no idea. Go ask Gustavo. And they're like, well, don't you own the company? And I was like, I was the guy smart enough to hire him because he's way smarter than me. I don't know how finance works. Go ask him. So don't get caught up in that belief that you can know all those things and that you're supposed to. You have to keep tabs and everything. So people say to me, how do you do that? And the answer is, how do you find people that you can trust and empower? Sometimes people will say to me, well, I hired her. I'd let her do it, but she might not do it the way I do it. And I was like, you're right, because she might do it way better, but you're afraid to let anybody else try, and you'll never know. Trust and empower people. So This is important. This is a lesson that I learned along the way, which is the key to success is rock stars. What do I mean by rock stars? When you're out interviewing, you find somebody that you're like, oh my God, she's amazing. But she's way more expensive than everyone else because she's a rock star. So you know what people tell me? I can't afford her. So do you know what you guys do instead of hiring her? You hire 3 average people. You tell me for the same money I can hire 3 people. And here is the big secret. Again, you can't build greatness on the backs of average people. So taking your money and hiring 3 people, because you have enough money to hire 3 people, 3 average people does not take you to success. Take that money and stop hiring average people. Hire less people and spend your money on rock stars. So again, when people say, I can't afford her, I say, okay, so you're just going to hire 3 average people. Don't do that. Spend the money on the rock stars. 1 rock star outperforms 4 average people. They're smarter, they're more innovative, they're more passionate. Hire rock stars. I just wanted to tell you really quick, this was a story that a guy came into my office for an engineering job. And when my team said, we want to hire him, we think this guy's a rock star. And he came into my office and he sat down and I say, $1,000 a year at his job. This is a long time ago, but he said, I want to get a raise, so I want to make $80,000. And I said, okay, there's a piece of paper on the end of my desk, pick it up. And he picked it up and I said, what does it say? And he said, 85,000. I said, I wrote down before you came in here what I think you're worth. And he said, okay, but I'm not asking for 85, I'm asking for 80. I said, I understand that, but I think you're worth at least 85. And he said, but I didn't ask for that. And I said, do you want to continue this conversation? And he said, no, sir, I'll take the 85. And he left happy. My friend said, Jeff, you just wasted $5,000. You could have got him for 80. I said, did I? Because you know what happened at the end of the day? One night I'm walking out and I'm like, Bill, go home. And he said, I will, just as soon as I finish proving something. And I said, proving what? And he said, proving that you were right to believe in me. He said, I'm going to make sure that I prove you right by doing this. One day, I said, or pay for postings because we need 3 more rockstar developers. And he said, can I do something? And I said, what? And he said, can I just bring my friends? Who do you think are the friends of rockstar developers? Other rock stars? I spent $0. He brought the next 3 rock stars in and we absolutely crushed it. It was an award-winning team. So spend your money on less people and on rock stars. How do you get them to want to work for you? This is a very important piece. And the answer is that you lead by serving. I do not like it when my employees, when they say, who do you work for? And they say, Jeff, I tell them, no, actually, I work for you guys. My job is to find in your job the best people in your industry to get them to all want to work for you and never leave. And I'll tell you how I learned this piece. I sold a company. And when I sold it, I was going to do a TV interview. And the news reporter was like, reporting, Mr. Hoffman, these are your profits, your margins, your revenue growth, your sales. She said, these numbers are so impressive. Which one are you most proud of? And I said, actually, none of those things. Excuse me. I said, the thing that I'm most proud of is that on the way to the TV station, the woman that ran HR for me called me and said, Jeff, I got to share something with you. And I said, what? And she said, I just verified this. She said, from the day you started this company to the day you sold it, in all those years, nobody that works for you has ever quit. And I said, all right, that's the coolest thing I've ever done, and I don't know how I did that. So I was calling people from the TV station, my team. I said, why don't you guys quit? And they're like, do you want us to quit? Is that a problem? And I said, no, I just didn't realize that nobody's ever left this company in all these years, and I'm trying to figure out why you stay. I'm going to share with you what I learned from them. And what I learned was that, by the way, there's chairs. If you guys want to come up, I hate that people have to stand, except Carlos, you can stand. He will anyway. You guys never see him sit down. He never stops moving, but there's more seats up here. Do you guys know what the splash zone is? There's a theme park in the United States called SeaWorld. And the first 2 rows, the whale jumps up and splashes everybody. So they tell you, don't sit in the first 2 rows unless you're okay sitting in the splash zone. I was on a stage like this, And I told people, I said, you can sit in the first 2 rows, but it is the splash zone, and you're going to get wet. All the people moved back to their bath. In a room like this, I was like, what were they actually thinking? So just so you know, there's no splash zone. Okay, so you lead by serving. And I want to tell you what that looks like. I want you to think about redefining your job to say, my job is to find all the best people in my industry and build a company and a culture that all the best people want to work for you and they never want to leave. So I reverse engineered that because I called and I started asking people, why do you work here? And why does nobody ever leave this company? And they answered me. And that's what I'm going to share with you. This is what leadership is supposed to look like. You're not out there to create followers. You're not out there to tell everybody what to do. You're out there to find people smarter than you, rock stars, and then make sure they're happy and take care of them. So I used to write the innovation and entrepreneurship column for Inc. magazine. And one day they said, write about leadership. And I wrote an article, that's the title of it, Hire the Best and Go Pick Up Their Laundry. And I want to tell you guys the story. It's still out there on Inc.com under my name, but I'm going to tell you the story. I was on the road one day, and my team called. And they're like, Jeff, we met this 20-year-old rock star kid, right? He's a developer. And I said, you don't need my permission. Don't wait for me. Just hire this kid. So while I was on the road, they hired this young man. By the way, it was interesting because we were using a software product, and every time we needed help, we called their help desk. And my people, every time they called the help desk, would ask for this same guy. They would say, can we speak to him? And then one of my employees said, the kid's a genius. And somebody said, why don't we just hire the guy from the company, right? And so we don't even need to call the help desk again. So I'm out of town. I come back. This young guy does not know who I am. He doesn't know I own the company. He doesn't know I'm the CEO. We've never met. They're all in the conference room working. I spend the morning looking at his work, at this rock star, expensive, but brilliant kid. We hired him and we didn't fill the other 2 jobs. We gave him the money. I'm looking at his work all morning. At lunch, I go down to the lunchroom, and when my employees work through lunch, I just buy them lunch if they're still in there. By the way, sometimes I ask, my friends will say, you buy your employees lunch? I said, I do if they stay at work. And they're like, isn't that expensive? Think about this. Which do you think has more value? An hour of an engineer's time or a sandwich? Because people are like, I can't afford to buy them lunch. I was like, when I buy the sandwiches, they keep working. I don't ever ask them to do that. So you're looking at the wrong number. Don't look at the price of the sandwich. Look at the value of the time of an engineer. So when they're in there working, I say, are you guys going to lunch? They're like, we're busy. I said, let me buy you lunch. So I go in the room and I say, what can I get you guys? Well, I meant pizza, Chinese food, what do you want? And the 20-year-old kid, he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know I own the company. He has no idea. He looks over his shoulder. He's busy. And he says, can you go pick up my dry cleaning? Well, all the air went out of the room. I was telling people that in the movies, when the soldier steps on the landmine and it goes click and everybody freezes because everyone knows what happens next. He's going to blow up. They're all looking at him. They're all looking at me to see what I'm going to say. And I looked at this kid. He, again, doesn't know who I am. And I said, where's your ticket? And he said, the ticket for my laundry's on my chair. So I left. And a little while later, I'm outside, and my 2 vice presidents come running outside yelling, Jeff, Jeff, Jeff. And I said, whoa, calm down, what's up? And they're like, please don't fire him. We need him, don't fire him. And I said, why do you think I'm going to fire him? And they said, he didn't know who you are. He didn't know you're the owner or the CEO. And they said, please don't fire him. And I said, why do you think I'm going to fire him? And they said, because you're so angry. And I said, wait, why do you think I'm angry? And they said, because you stormed out of the office, out of the building. And I said, okay, I didn't storm out of the building. I said, I spent the morning looking at this kid's work. And I said, this kid is a genius. I said, the product he's designing is going to triple the size of our company. I said, the product that kid's designing is going to win every award. By the way, at the end of that year, they used to have a thing called the Internet Commerce Expo. My company won Best New Internet Product, and I was on a stage being handed a trophy from actually Steve Jobs at the time because of this kid. So I said, they said, so what are you doing? I said, that kid is going to absolutely change this company. So not only am I on the way to pick up this kid's laundry, but if you guys need me this afternoon, I will be out back washing that kid's car, okay? That is your actual job. Your job is to serve the talented rock stars. When I started asking them, why do you never leave? They said, because we've never worked at a company that we think you think we're your job, right? We don't work for you, you work for us, and we see it every day. That's why we like working here. I didn't know any of that, but that's why we were successful, because all the best people worked at our company and they never left. Because a big chunk of my time was not running the business, it was taking care of these people, these rock stars. How do you attract talent? People ask me, how do you get them to come here when you don't have money, especially early on for these rock stars? Well, here's an important thing to note. Rock stars want something more than their salary, okay? Because they already know that they're going to get paid. They're never going to have trouble getting a job because they're the rock star. Everyone's offering them jobs. So how do you attract them? Because they want something more than just their paycheck. By the way, the rock star knows that their work is making your company successful, and they want to be part of that. They don't just want a paycheck. If they do, they're probably not a rock star. Real rock stars say, I'm going to make your company 3 times bigger. Do I get a piece of it? They actually want part of their success. That's one of the first ways to tell. So here's a lesson I learned about employment. This guy calls me one day, and he said, I'm building a company, and I'm the CEO, but I need a president. Could I interview you? And I started to say, I have my own company. I'm not, no thanks. But I realized something. Probably everyone in this room that owns a company interviews people and hires them. And if I were to ask you what % of you have an HR training and have been trained in interviewing and hiring, none of you do. I'm a software engineer, but I hire my people. I have no HR training. So it suddenly occurred to me, am I even doing this right? Do I know how to interview people? Because I've never had interview training. I just happen to own a company. So I decided to take the interview just to see how people interview. Excuse me. And I went, and he started by saying, here's our mission statement. Here's our values. Here's the business plan. And then he said, here's a job description, and here's a salary. So if you listen to all that, here's what I heard. This is my dream, my company, my idea, my goals. Here's a list of tasks you can do for me, a job description. If you do them, I'll pay you. If not, you're fired. And then he's like, so is that inspiring? I said, yeah, no. And he said, well, what did you hear? I said, what I heard is you want me to work really hard 8 days a week so that one day you can buy the boat you always dreamed of. And he said, I didn't say that. I said, you kind of did. So I got in the car and I started thinking, how do I interview? Do you know what I do? I tell you about my company. Guess what? That's not your dream, it's mine. I tell you about my mission statement. That's our mission statement, the company. You didn't wake up wishing that my company was successful. And so I realized that at that moment. So I'm going to tell you how I hire people now. I don't ever start by saying, let me tell you about my company, our company. Let me tell you about the mission statement. Let me tell you about the job description. I do the opposite. At every interview, I start by asking people this question. I say, can you tell me one thing you need to achieve with your life, one dream of yours, so that one day when you look back, you can say, my life was successful. Tell me what would make your life successful. Let me tell you what happened the first time I did it. I was interviewing an engineer named Chris. And I said, Chris, before we start, I need to ask you a question. I've never done this before. I said, tell me one thing you need to accomplish with your life so that you will consider your life a success. You know what I thought he was going to say? Jeff, I'm an engineer. If this is some kind of California meditation Zen, right? I thought he was going to make fun of me. And he said, oh, that's easy. He said, buy my mother a house in Florida, fully paid. I said, whoa, that was really specific. I said, what's your story? And Chris said, I grew up in a trailer, okay? And in the US, obviously, you know we have mobile home parks. Chris said, we were the poor people in the poor people neighborhood. A mobile home has rooms. The bedrooms have doors. There's a kitchen, a living room. They have rooms with doors. A trailer is just a bedroom. It's only one room. He said, we lived in an old Airstream trailer. He said it was so old that the walls rusted and there was holes in the side. They lived in Pennsylvania. He said we were so poor that my sister and my mother and I only had one blanket. This is his job interview, by the way. And he said, in the winter, the snow would come through the holes, so I would take the blanket off my mom and I would put it over the wall to block the snow. And he said, then I would lay there all night watched my mom and my sister shiver, and he said, I would tell myself, someday, somehow, I will work so hard and be so good at what I do that I'll be successful enough to buy my mother a house fully paid in the warm Florida sun as a thank you for the sacrifice this woman made by being my mother. I said, Chris, you're hired. He said, you didn't interview me. I said, yeah, I interviewed you. Guys, people that are driven by passion and purpose far outperform people driven by paycheck. If the root of your conversation is salary, that's an employee. If the root of your conversation is, I come in here every day. You know what I did? I printed that picture. That's a picture of a house in Florida. I put it on the wall where Chris works. The next day, all my employees came in, and they said, what is that? I said, that's the reason Chris comes into this office every day. What's yours? And I got an idea. I walked around, and I had that conversation with everyone that works for me. So if you would come in my office, you would see what looked like random pictures all over the walls of our office. They're not random at all. I know why every person that works for me comes into this office. It's not about my dream, it's about theirs. Do you? And I don't mean literally, but generally when I have this at companies, they have no idea. You don't know why those people come in and work for you. You know that they come in to do their job to help your company achieve. They don't wake up in the morning worrying about your future. They wake up in the morning worrying about their mom. I know why everybody works for me. So you want to know how this worked, which was pretty amazing? I had rock star people like Chris. Chris, one day when things were going bad, he came in my office and sat down. And he said, I hear we're having some trouble. And he said, how can I help? I said, I got it. Don't worry about it. And he said, I'm worrying about it. And he said, how can I help you? What do we got to do to make the company work? And I said, Chris, that's really not your problem. He said, oh, wait a minute. He said, you think I'm in here for me? He said, Jeff, I'm in here because my mother's future depends on this company, so let's figure this out. Those kind of employees don't go home when the money's short. They don't go home when things are getting tough. They find a way. We sold that company. I gave everybody a cut. And by the way, I mentioned before that when you say you can't afford rock stars don't just want salary. So I give every one of them, especially when you're early on, you don't have much money. I give them two levers to pull. When you pull one, the other one goes down, the other one goes up. I say this is cash every month, salary, and this is equity. Equity is performance-based compensation. That can be a percentage of profits. That can be a bonus. That can be sales, or that can be stock in the company. But offer them something that is variable. The more money my company makes, the more you get. Rock stars want that. So I let them pull those levers. And you know what people like Chris do? They don't ask for the biggest salary. Even though he used to get it, because of the company he worked for, he didn't have anything but a salary. But when he came to me, he said, I need this much salary to pay my bills every month, and I want the rest of it in company stock. So you know what happened? We sold the company, and I paid everybody. And Chris's mom knew he'd sold the company and made some money. She just didn't know what. So we told his mom, your son made some money, and he's sending you on an all-expenses-paid vacation in Florida. So she was in Florida for the week. At the end of the week, we brought her to the house, and she got angry. We knew this was going to happen. And she turned to her son and said, you know I live in that horrible trailer, and you brought me here to show me that your boss bought a house in Florida? Well, I'll tell you what, guys, the reason that she thought that was my house was because, remember I told you a trailer only has a bedroom. All the furniture in the house was new. She doesn't own any furniture. So she looked at it and said, that has to be Jeff's, right? But she turned and she was angry and she said, take me to the airport right now. And I said, I'll take you to the airport, but you have to do me one favor. And she said, I'm upset and I want to go. I said, one favor. And she said, what? And now I'll be honest, I didn't think this through when I said it. I said, you need to come down the hall to the bedroom with me. And she turned to her son for my favor, and she said, your boss is taking me into his bedroom, do something. And because he knew, he had to turn away to stop laughing. And he said, Mom, there's nothing I can do. Jeff drove, right? If you want to ride, you got to do what he says. We're both trying not to laugh. And she's angry. She said, fine, I'll look at your bedroom. And she walks down there. Well, the reason we sent her away for a week was while she was gone, my team shipped all of her furniture to the house, which was only the bedroom. And I put it in the bedroom. And one quick side note, Chris's mother, when she was stressed out in the middle of the night when they lived in the trailer, She would wake up and brush her hair 1,000 times because she was so stressed that she wasn't a good enough mom. And because she didn't want to turn the lights on because they couldn't afford their electricity, she would put her hairbrush on her nightstand every night so she could find it in the dark. So Adam shipped me the hairbrush, and I put it on the nightstand. And when she opened the door, I will try not to get emotional. When she opened the door to the bedroom and realized that was her bedroom, she saw the furniture, she saw her hairbrush, she turned and looked at me, she burst into tears, I was crying, Chris was crying, I'm holding her going, Mom, it's not even my mom, right? And I'm hugging her going, Mom, and we're all crying. I was like, this is one of the coolest moments of my life. This is literally the reason I own a business, why I'm an entrepreneur, and why I come to work every day. It was incredible. And it ended by Chris doing something I never saw coming. He looked at his watch, and I thought he was going to say, I'm good, my mom's taken care of, it's been great, Jeff, thank you for everything. He looked at his watch, and he said, we should go back to the office. I said, you want to go back to the office? He said, let's go back to the picture wall and see who's next. If you have people like that, you are going to beat your competition. Lead by serving. Find out what people care about in their lives and create a path. Greed doesn't work. People say, protect all your equity. Don't give anyone stock in the company. Congratulations, you own 100% of nothing. Or you could own a real small percent. Now, it grew to this, not back when we built it, but our company, Booking.com, was a little tiny startup, right? Our whole company with a handful of people on a table, and the company today is worth $130 billion. So do you want a little piece of that, or do you want to own 100% of a $10 million company? Greed doesn't work. Sharing for rock stars and giving the best people a piece of the company is how you get to that unicorn level, not by not bringing, they're not going to come in just for a salary. Okay, so that's why we talked about trust and empower. And I just put this up to tell you what this looks like at the end. And again, I didn't know this, guys. I wasn't smart enough to know any of this stuff. I'm telling you everything that afterwards, when people said Priceline and then Booking, and then I had another company called UBid, all grew to global companies that achieved that unicorn status. And people said, how did you get small companies to grow into billion-dollar companies? And so I went back afterwards to see what did we do that worked. That's what I'm sharing with you, right? The stuff that later I said, when I asked, what did work? Here's what it's supposed to look like. Tell you the story quickly. I go in my office one day, and I sit down, pull up my calendar, and we used Outlook back then. And Outlook is down. My screen's blank. So I call my assistant. I said, yeah, Outlook's down. And she goes, Jeff, it's not down. And I said, it's not working. And she said, why do you think Outlook's down? I said, my calendar's completely blank. She said, Outlook's working fine. I said, why is my calendar blank? She said, because no one wants to talk to you. And I said, wait a minute, I've spent my whole life with a million meetings and problems. And I said, how could I have nothing on the calendar? And she said, I don't know, but no one needs you right now. So I'm a little depressed. So I go down the hall, and I'm trying to find something to do in my own company. And I walk into the product development. They're all in the conference room. We have 3 conference rooms in a row. And I said, hey guys, I'm looking for work to do. I said, what's up? And they're like, Jeff, we're right in the middle of a code review. And they said, could you just come back later? And I said, well, I was trying to maybe help. I'm like trying to pull up a chair. They're pulling it away from me, right? You're not a good designer. You're not a good coder. Please leave the room, right? We don't care that you own the company. We're in the middle of something. And one of them said, why don't you take the day off and golf? And I was like, you guys know I don't golf. So I walk to the next room. I'm kind of upset. And it's my operations team. And I was like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm pulling up a chair. And they're like, we're right in the middle of a strategic review. Can we see you Thursday? And I was like, well, I was just looking for something to do. And they're like, how about golf? It's a beautiful day out. And I was like, you guys know I don't golf. Just to tell you guys, I don't golf because I don't think it's a sport if you can't play defense. If I could block your shot with my golf club, I would totally golf. But if I have to just stand there and watch someone beat me, that's not a sport, no defense. So they kicked me out. So I go to the third room, it's finance. And I told you guys, I am not a finance guy. And my CFO looks at me and goes, really? Because you're about to slow us way down. We have no time to explain this to you. Take the day off. So I go back to my office and I'm depressed, right? No one needs me. I have nothing to do in my company. And my 3 heads of those departments suddenly come into my office. And they're looking at me and I said, are you sad? I said, I'm really sad. I'm useless at my own company. And they said, you should be celebrating this moment And I said, why? And they said, you achieved the goal. I said, what are you talking about? And they said, the reason you have no meetings on your schedule at all is because this company is kicking ass. They said, every one of us knows our job, you've empowered us, and the company is doing so well that we don't have any problems. And they said, that's why your calendar is blank, because we're cruising right now, and we're crushing it. And they said, we're all the right people for the right jobs, and you let us do our thing. And I said, so what am I fired? And they said, no, you're promoted. And I said, to what? And they said, you're now free to go back to being our chief dream officer, because it's your dreams that started all this. And I said, what should I do? And they said, we know you want to attack Europe next. And they said, why don't you spend the next 6 weeks exploring the markets in Europe and come back and give us a strategy? Your job, you are not important when you go to the beach and your phone rings and you say, sorry, I'm important, I'm the boss, I got to take this. You're not important, you're inefficient. What you should be proud of is, I can go to the beach and no one calls me. No one calls me because my people are better than me at their jobs. I have such an amazing company that I built and team that when I go on vacation, my phone doesn't ring. You're not important because they call you, you're inefficient. Sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it's reality. Your job is to design yourself out of a job. The day you can walk out of the office and tell them, I'll see you guys Monday, like, cool, we'll call you if we need you, and no one calls, you're a good manager. That makes sense to everybody? That's how I realized that. My team's like, why are you sad, right? We're killing it. I did not know that then. That's your real job. So 2 more topics we're going to cover. How do you find these rock stars? So I explained to you that talent is the key to success. Rock stars are how you get there. Stop giving your money to average people. Hire a smaller team of more expensive people. You don't have to spend only cash on expensive people because they want a share of success. So either do it with profits or bonuses or equity, right? Giving away parts of your company. By the way, one more quick thing about equity before we go to how to find rock stars. One day I got a phone call from our receptionist at the front desk. She's an hourly employee, not a professional salaried job. And one day her husband called me. And I'm like, hi, who's this? And he said, this is Rebecca's husband. And I'm like, my first thought was something happened to Rebecca, because I've never spoken to her. Is she okay? He said, she's fine. He said, I'm the one that has an issue. And I said, what's the issue? And he said, I need you to talk to my wife because she completely misunderstood something and I feel bad. And I said, what happened? And he said, after your meeting today, my wife thinks she has stock in the company, and I know she's an hourly employee and obviously doesn't have stock. And he said, will you explain to her that whatever actually you said in the meeting? And I said, wait, your wife thinks she has stock in our company? And he said, yes. And I said, I said, I know what happened. And he said, what? I said, your wife thinks she has stock in our company because I gave her stock in the company today. And he said, hold it, I'm a vice president. And I was like, that's your problem. I said, your wife is now a shareholder and you're not. And he's like, I've been there 14 years. I said, talk to your boss. And I said, your wife is a shareholder. He said, how did you get that past the investors? And what you have to realize is stock's not just money. I called the receptionist in and I said, I know you're an hour employee, but I want to give you these shares. I didn't ask my investors. I took them out of my stock and I just gave her some of mine. The amount of shares, she's never had a share of stock in her life. That small amount, it's nothing to me. To her, it was life-changing. And the next day, I come in the office and my VP of sales is out front talking to somebody and he is drinking coffee and he sets it down on the front desk and he leaves and Rebecca goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he said, what? And she goes, you're going to clean up that coffee. And he said, geez, you don't have to act like you own the place. And everybody started laughing. She goes, yeah, I do. The attitude for a few shares of stock, she's an owner of that company. And by the way, that stock to you, might not have changed your life. We sold the company and her family bought their first new car ever with the money she made from the stock. So how do you attract rock stars? The answer is you have to hunt for them. I'm going to change your job description again. I already told you that part of my job description is growing leaders, not running the company. Is serving people. But the other part is hunting talent. The rock stars are not going to wander into your office and say, please hire me. And you know what else is unlikely? They're probably not the ones responding to your job posting. And I only say this, you might get lucky, but who's usually looking at job postings? People that lost theirs, okay? Most of the people that are looking at job postings lost their job. The rock stars aren't doing that. They have 5 people trying to hire them. They're not looking at job postings. They're not coming in your office. So how do you find them? You go to them. And let me explain what talent hunting looks like. Oh, that is that picture. So one day, I was thinking about that HR thing. I told you, I interview my own employees because I own a company, but I've never been trained in interviewing. And I had one time where an employee came to me and said, 2 of our employees are arguing and I think they're gonna fight. And I said, fight? And he's like, you better hurry. So we're running down the hall. And he said, what are you gonna do when you get there? And I said, I have no idea what I'm gonna do when I get there. I'm a software engineer, right? I have no training in resolving arguments with difficult people, preventing fights. Who taught me that? No one. I'm like hoping the hallway's a little bit longer because I don't have a plan yet, right? So I was like, I need an HR professional. And the same way I told you guys, don't pretend you're good at everything. Get people smarter than you. And I was finally at that point where I said, I think you can afford someone to run HR now. So I called around, this is talent hunting, and I asked people, I said, where do HR people hang out? People in the human resources. And everybody kept saying this word I never heard of called SHRM. And I said, what does that word mean? And they said, Jeff, it's not a word, it's an acronym. So I looked it up. It's the Society of Human Resource Managers. So I went to the website, and on the website, it said, don't forget to sign up for our annual conference. So I signed up for the annual conference. I flew to the conference. There were 1,000 people. It's more like 1,200. Of those 1,200 people, they all had a green badge. Green means you're an HR executive. You work in the field of HR. My badge was red, okay? And it just said CEO. So I walk out there in a sea of 1,000 people, and they're all like, hey, why is your badge red? And I said, because I don't work in HR. And they're like, then what are you doing at the HR conference? And I said, honestly, I'm shooting fish in a barrel because there's 1,000 of you and I need one HR person and I'm not leaving till someone comes home with me. And they were like, oh, that's actually pretty smart. So now I'm looking around the room and I'm like, I can't interview 1,000 people. So think about this. Who are typically the speakers at a conference? They're people that are the experts in that industry, right? I don't think you usually bring on people that have failed miserably in your industry and said, tell people how you do it. So I looked, there were 9 speakers that day. So I went from 1,000 prospects to 9 targets. I circled the speakers. Then I noticed at lunch that there was, the lunch speaker was named Angela, and she was receiving the HR Executive of the Year for the whole United States. She was that year's honoree, so I triple circled her. Well, here's where the plan went wrong. After she spoke at lunch, everybody went up to her. So I couldn't get anywhere near her. I was standing in the back there. But all of a sudden, just like you're doing now, eventually they came on the PA and they said, all of you attendees paid for workshops, please go to the workshop you paid for now. The whole room emptied. So there's only me and Angela. So she walks back up to the podium to get her laptop. And she's putting it away. And I said, hi, Angela, I'm Jeff. And she's like, kind of like, whatever. She's this rock star, right? She wasn't rude. She just didn't really care. But she glances over and she's like, hi, Jeff. She's putting her laptop away. And she goes, wait, why is your badge red? And I said, because I'm a CEO. And she said, what are you doing here? I said, I need someone to run HR. And she was, yeah, funny. She said, did you not see the award I just won? I work for an amazing company. I have a big salary. I work for a big Fortune 500 company. And I said, this is the part I told you that the only compensation isn't cash, isn't salary. Now, I have to admit, guys, I'm especially as a sports fan, I have this problem with trash talking, okay? Of just saying it and see what happens. So I said, okay, Angela, never mind. She's like, I'm not interested. I'm not looking for a job. Don't waste your time talking to me. And I said, never mind. And I said on the way out, I'm walking, I said, congratulations on your new house. And she said, what? Why would you say that? That's a weird thing. And I said, I assume you bought a new house this year. She said, why would you assume that? I said, I Googled your company and they had a record year. She said, what does that have to do with me? I said, well, do you think that a big reason they had a record year is you? And she said, I guess I never thought of it that way before. And I said, well, think about it. And she said, well, yeah, I built the team. And I said, so they had a record year because of your work? And she said, I guess yes. And I said, so I assumed that you made enough money, a bonus, to buy a house. And she said, I got my 3%. And I said, ooh, that, like that hurts, right? And now she's mad at me, like, leave me alone. I was having a good day till you came in here. So I started walking away, and I took one more 3-point shot, one more shot on goal on the way out the door. I said, I'm sure your boss is building a new house. And she whipped around. I would made that up. She said, how did you know my boss built a new house? And I was like, oh, I hit a target with that one. And I said, I just assumed he did because of your company's record success. She said, my boss is building a huge new house. And I said, right, with the money you made. And now she's angry. And I'm walking out and she goes, do you have time for lunch? So I will tell you guys, Angela ran HR for my next 4 companies. She did come back with me. She was an absolute rock star. She did extremely well because she owned a piece of every single company. I didn't pay her anywhere near her salary, but when she went and told her husband, I'm going to take way less salary, but we're going to be the ones building the house next time, that actually happened. So hunt for talent. Go find people. What I would do is one Friday a month, I would tell my team, I'm not going to be in the office today, I'm talent hunting. One time I needed engineers. I asked people where engineers go. There's this thing all over the world called Tech Meetup. It's everywhere. They have them here too. So I looked it up. There was one nearby. You pay $15, you pay for pizza and beer. They closed a pizza restaurant. There were 200 people in the room. I bought a $15 ticket. I went in there. The first person said to me, yo, old man, you're in the wrong room. And I was like, okay, first of all, I'm not in the wrong room, right? I probably was old enough to be that dude's father. But I started it because I actually stood up on the table and I said, I have an announcement to make. And they're all looking at me because I looked official, I guess. Maybe it was the beard. And I said, who's the best? I said, I want to know from this room, who's the best? Who's the rock star in this room? And I got an answer. Everybody started talking about Robert. Go hunt for talent. Now I'm going to close with the last section for you guys. Actually, no, I didn't have a beard then, so I wonder why they listened to me. The last part, and this is what I mentioned. Your job is to build the company and the culture that all the best people in your industry want to work for you and never leave. That is different definition than I'm the boss, I tell people what to do. I'm the boss, I build the culture and the environment that attracts good people. Then I work really hard to make sure they're happy there and they don't want to leave. So let me tell you the last piece, excuse me, which is culture. Rock stars care about culture. And your culture is, I'm giving you an example. Your culture is your value set. It's what you believe in as a company. And it can be your personal values because you did create the company, you do own the company. Your values evolve into a group thing. But here's the thing. They should not only be visible everywhere. And by the way, when people come to me and they say, yeah, we have 10 values, nobody believes 10 values. It sounds like you were saying, think up a number 7. You have 2 or 3, maybe 4 at the most. 3 is a good number. What are your fundamental beliefs, right? If it's really long, you don't have credibility. The short things. So I put them on the wall, but more importantly, you have to live those values. So I'm going to end today telling you this story because when I was asking people why they like working here, one of the reasons was because our culture is real. And I said, what's the difference between real? And they said, we've always worked at companies that had posters. But here's the incident they all kept talking about. On my wall, I posted this in my office. All human beings will be treated with the same level of dignity and respect. If you looked on my social media, I posted a picture of me sitting next to, sometimes in my job, like I was just recently in Spain and I had a meeting with the King of Spain. I posted a picture, I think it might have been the King of Saudi Arabia, but it's me sitting with a king on one side. And the next picture is me with a cleaning lady in a building named Maria. That's Maria, with a janitor, okay? And I put the pictures side by side and I said, to me, these two meetings are the same. And it's not because I would treat the king with any level of disrespect. Jennifer and I just hosted your governor. We greeted him and brought him in and spent time with him. The difference is that we treat her the same way we would treat the governor. right? That is an unbreakable law for me at my companies. If you can't function this way, you can't work for me. So that's a value for us. I don't fire people for making mistakes at work, but I fire them for violating our values, okay? So that's on the wall. So this CEO wants to do a joint venture with me, multi-million-dollar deal on the table. So he comes to our office and he sees our company and my employees and we talk about our company. Now it's my turn to go to his office. The first sign there was a cultural difference was he said, "Can you come after 5?" I said, "Why?" And he said, "I don't want my employees to know I'm talking to anyone." And I was like, "Really?" Because I tell my employees everything. I treat them like adults. When they say, "Who's that?" I say, "It's a guy that I'm working on a joint venture with," because they might have a good idea that I didn't think of. I tell my employees everything. And he's like, "I don't even want him to know I'm in a meeting." So I go at 5, and because the door locks at 5, I can't get into the building. I'm in the lobby. And he says, "I'm on a call, I'll be 20 minutes. I said, "No problem, I'll just sit here." While I'm sitting there, the door opens and a lady walks in to clean the building. He takes about 25, 30 minutes. When he comes out, he sees me and his face looks like I just did something horrible. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Did you just hug the cleaning lady?" I said, "Okay, first of all, her name's Maria. No one's named cleaning lady, but I don't think you actually know what her name is, do you?" He didn't say anything. He looked at me like, "Who cares? That's just stupid." And I said, "Second, Maria is a single mother." And I said, "She's below the poverty level." And I gave him a look because he pays her. "She has 2 kids and one has special needs." I said, "Maria did not know that the state provides free care for special needs children if you're under the poverty level." And he's still looking at me like, "Why are you telling me any of this?" And you know what he said at the end? He said, "What did you give her?" I said, "My phone number." He said, "Okay, wait a minute. You're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company and you gave your phone number to the cleaning lady." I said, "Again, her name is Maria." And he said, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "My employees are picking up Maria at your office tomorrow and taking her downtown. We're going to bring her clothes, food, and my team is going to enroll her in the special ed program for his children." And he just shook his head like I said something disgusting. And I said, "All right, well, good luck with your future." And he said, "Wait, we're not doing our meeting?" I said, "I'm pretty much had all the meeting I need right now." And I just walked out. The next day, when I got into the office, everyone's all excited. "How did the multi-million-dollar deal go?" I said, "We're not doing it." My team said, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" I said, "You guys remember Maria?" And they said, "Yeah, we're picking her up today. We got some clothes for her. People are bringing food into the office." I said, "Yeah, I got in trouble for hugging her." Not one word had to be said in my company. Everyone said, "We'll find another partner. We'll find the money somewhere else." Our culture draws people. I didn't think that much of that. I walked out on a guy that was a jerk. End of story. And we helped someone that needed help. Those are things you should do every day. But years later, people were still telling the story. They were saying, "Yeah, there was that time that our boss walked out of this deal because it was a violation of our values." When I went to people and said, "Why does everybody like working here?" They said, "Because the culture here is real. This is a company that lives the things that it says." So I want you to define your culture. I want you to put your values on the wall, but more importantly, I want you to live by them. Create a culture around a set of values because it's the law of attraction. Good people are attracted to good environments. They care. The person that only cares about the paycheck, by the way, I had to fire somebody, one of my best salespeople, because remember I told you about Rebecca, the receptionist? One day I was walking by and he said, "Get me coffee." And I was behind him and he didn't know. And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "I'm busy, I need coffee. She's the receptionist, she needs to get it." I said, "Yeah, back up. Well, it doesn't work that way." He goes, "Jeff, I'm a vice president of the company. That's an hourly employee. I'm busy." I said, "I don't care." He said, "You're kidding me." I said, "Not only am I not kidding you, but you're on a 30-day probation now." He thought I was joking and we let him go 30 days later. And my employees said, when Paul didn't believe me, when I called him in and I said, "You don't have to come in Monday." He said, "I outsell all salespeople in this company 3-1. I said, "True, but you out-asshole them 10-1 and you can't work here anymore." And my employee productivity went up. And I asked people, "Wait, I fired the most productive guy. Why is our productivity up?" And they said, "Because you removed the big dark cloud that was bringing everybody down." They said the negative energy he created was hurting all of us. Now that he's gone, and now that we believe in you, because you actually let a guy that was making you money go because of the way he treated us, they're like, we like working here even more, and our energy level went up. Create a culture and live that culture. So I hope these were helpful tips, guys, today. I would stay, but I have doing a international Zoom thing right now, so I have to run to another room. I am doing another class tomorrow on branding, but I hope to catch you guys. I'd love to hear your comments out on the floor when we get a chance. Thank you very much for spending the time. Thanks.